Yeah.
Dead in the middle of little did we know.
I'm serious about mine. I'm so sincere.
Now at last I have seen a judgment of Solomon.
Welcome to Thought Crimes, everyone, and this is your girl, Sincere.
Yo, this is your man, Savage Solomon, in the building. We're going to be talking about George Zimmerman, a.k.a. Bloated Mustard Face, out here threatening Beyonce in these streets. Some of the things that have been uncovered during the docuseries that, again, Jay-Z is producing, covering the death, unfortunately, of a Trayvon Martin. One of the things that surfaced was the threatening text messages that was sent to the direction of Beyonce and Jay-Z. And basically, George Zimmerman was talking about they were going to find themselves in a gator's mouth and threatening their life. What do you think about that, Sin?
Well, I think that, I don't know what to say about this person, anymore. He murdered a 17-year-old kid, got away with it. His artwork on eBay, sold very well a couple of years ago. And he's an attention seeker, and he's an extremely violent person who was able to get away with killing another human being, a kid at that, a teenager. So it doesn't surprise me or shock me that he went from Jay-Z to Beyonce, and I wouldn't put it past him to go after their children as well. It's just showcase again how disgusting society is, which is why in our last conversation in our live stream, I told people not to try to reserve things to hoods or act like what went on with Cardi B and Nicki Minaj is the top of disgusting behavior. This, that, and third is very low, even though a lot of the ladies make valid points of etiquette and what young women should understand and do. But this is what I meant where I was talking about all different types of people, white, black, etc., when it goes to murder, when it goes to how the United States acted towards somebody like a Zimmerman, and even afterwards made excuses for him after he took that young man's life.
And just for people to understand in full context exactly what took place here. Basically, in a series of text messages obtained by The Blast, Zimmerman called Beyonce a broke whore and promised that she and Jay-Z would find themselves in a 13-foot gator. Now, if you not understanding the lingo and why would a 13-foot gator come up, it's because he's from Florida, and that's kind of like a reoccurring tone of threat there out there. So a lot of the people right now are reacting to what's taking place online, but this does explain why Jay-Z in several songs has been very insistent on delivering messages back to George Zimmerman. So what it turns out here is that maybe Jay-Z all the time, he was just simply responding. And not only that, some of the private investigators who have been looking into following up with George Zimmerman as far as like getting a comment or a quote for the series, they were receiving some of the threats as well. And one of the investigators stated that George Zimmerman kept sending him threats over and over and over and over. And to be honest with you, George Zimmerman has become a celebrity in the space of those who agreed with the actions he took against that fateful night of a Trayvon Martin. So he has had the opportunity to get paid for speaking engagements at certain award shows, certain functions, and certain elements and spaces that are not all that necessarily conducive for people who look like Trayvon Martin, and they're actually happy that he extinguished that life of a young black male.
Yeah, I think Jay-Z should at least have more power in this situation. I think they could take him to court. You can't just go out there threatening people's lives and expect not to have any type of repercussions to happen for doing something like that. And even with the liberals too, when Zimmerman's brother was on, I think he was on Real Time, and I saw even how people were swayed because his brother was articulate, but it's somewhat douchebaggish as well. And how he was defending his brother, and even though, and I saw how many people just gave Zimmerman the benefit of the doubt, and now for some of them realizing how absurd the stand your ground claim was, when a 17-year-old kid again is dead and his dead body was dragged over social media, the recording, the pictures, it's just really obscene, the disregarding of a young boy's life, and the disrespect to again showcase his dead body across the globe. and how a lot of people who weren't, whether they were indifferent towards the story or pro Zimmerman, or like I said, on the fence, I just thought that the way that story was handled was the utmost of disrespect. I know some people would say, well, shouldn't be surprised because of what happened with Emmett Till. So some people would be like, this country and the history, and of course, granted that is true. So that's why I'm not surprised. I know people like to say, well, today's world, people are more of this, women are more of that, this and that. No, I don't forget about the Roman Colosseum. I don't forget about what happened around the globe, whether in Turkey, in the United States, to Black Americans, or things that have happened to the people of the African diaspora, and also to other groups of people. So I'm never surprised by this behavior. I'm just always disgusted.
Well, yes, and everything that was taking place, and even how they handled the body of Trayvon Martin, was offensive. CNN ran with the footage. Fox News ran with the footage, despite both of them running into their respective political affiliated corners, whether they're saying CNN leaning more towards liberal, or if we're talking about Fox News leaning more towards the right. They still took advantage of the exploitation of the body of a Trayvon Martin. And I do remember, it's not like I haven't seen a dead body before, but when I was watching CNN, I just wasn't expecting to see his body flash across the screen. So it's very interesting how exploited Trayvon Martin and his family were versus George Zimmerman and the people who are looking to protect him, even with him acting like a kid himself, acting like a big tyrannical kid. So I'm not all that surprised. He was very arrogant, and he felt like, he won. He's been celebrated, because sometimes even the most atrocious behavior, once people become celebrated for it, for whatever reason, whether you agree with that audience or not that stands behind them, they're validated. So once they become validated, they become more arrogant, more overt, and now he's comfortable saying these things out publicly. When you remember during the trial in itself, he tried his best to walk the fine line, to look innocent, for them to have him to gain more weight so he can look, more innocent in the face and things like that. Once he got out of that and the people started supporting him and they cheered him on for, having his little victory and being absolved and exonerated, then now, he's basically letting his nuts swing and he feels like I'm going to do whatever I want. So I'm not all that surprised by George Zimmerman, a very disgusting human being.
And people have to also remember his father is a judge, or a retired judge, but a judge nonetheless. And I want to know what everybody else's thoughts are on this, of what took place with Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, how the country responded, how somebody who was underage, his body was allowed to be showcased on national television and everywhere else. And remember, this is a 17-year-old kid. And I also want to know what you think about this attack from George Zimmerman on Jay-Z and his wife. Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well, Thought Crimes. And also check out our website, www.thoughtcrimesworld.com, and our Patreon, Thought Crimes Patreon.
business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing